And with that, we've concluded a full day of insightful panels with like these esteemed guests talking about these cutting edge topics of multi-chain infrastructure. Allow me to come back and just summarize and synthesize some of the key points and also my personal highlights from the content today. We started off with a lot of deep dives into our rollups, right, with Ellie from Starkware and Marco from ZK Sync, where we talked about how these like validity proofs and ZK rollups can help us achieve 1,000 times cheaper or faster transactions, and with a future of like incorporating layer threes, which can then also bring in the flexibility of private chains with the composability of layer twos. And we've also seen how with different approaches, such as Polkadot and Cosmos, you also are approach converging on a similar kind of like end state for scaling. And of course, in between, we've also heard from like Yao Qi from AltLayer and Rebecca from Saga on how we can bridge the gap between having your own contracts and eventually your own rollup or your own chain on demand using some of like their infrastructure as well. Of course, moving on to the second section, having block space is not enough. Often we want to have rich functionalities that add to our applications. Here we heard from, for example, Adeline from Chainlink, which adds off-chain data or computation to many of our decentralized applications. In fact, in the future, you can even use it as some sort of interoperable solution as well. We heard from Nick from Celestia, where we talk about data availability, which is a key component of blockchains today, but you can unbundle that. And with that, support many different rollups and possibly also serve as some sort of interoperability solution. Lastly, we also heard from Shimo from Manta, where they aim to add privacy to all of the transactions that are happening. Of course, as with that common theme, how do we allow all these chains, all these scaling solutions, modular layers to talk to each other? That's where the third panel, where we covered interoperability solutions, comes in. Zaki from Cosmos introduced the concept that, hey, let's think beyond bridging. Interoperability and general message path between chains enables us to unbundle all these use cases, like we mentioned just now, right? Where execution, security, governance, all these can be done through interchain messaging. Of course, when we introduce these new elements, more security and trust assumptions need to be taken into account. Sergey from XLR very interestingly pointed out that there's no trustless solution, right? There's always something you need to watch out for, be it validators and how you prevent like collusion there, or even with code of the light clients and relays that you're using. But of course, everybody agrees, as Sota from A-Star pointed out, that in the end, we want to make sure that even with so many chains and layers, we want to abstract away the complexity such that the UI UX is seamless for the end user. And he used the analogy of how, look, there's so many banks and they give you the same products and services and very similar experiences, but you still are able to choose which institution you want to go to. And perhaps it will be those institutions that interact with the back-end infrastructure that we've been talking about. Of course, now with all this infrastructure in place, we can then start to imagine a new breed of applications, what we call cross-chain applications. Here in that panel, we heard from Sunny from Osmosis, who as a pioneer of the cross-chain space, even when it's so unlike, is already very convinced that the hub and spoke or the hub and outpost model should be the future or is already the future of applications, and how you can have multiple deployments but orchestrate them through a general message passing, and what he's been building as like the DEX aggregator plus even interchain name service there. Interestingly, we also heard from Richard from Gnosis Safe, who talked about account abstraction there and how even your accounts, right, your multi-signature smart contract wallets can be controlled from one chain through message passing on multiple chains, or governance voted on one chain can be implemented on a different chain. The other way to abstract away this complexity is, of course, aggregation. And that's where Philip from Li-Fi emphasize the part where, hey, actually, if you aggregate the user experience, like what they do with bridges, it almost feels like, you know, you can swap or move things from any chain to any chain to any assets. Of course, this is not without challenges, as Viabuff from Socket also pointed out. This new type of cross-chain application requires a new paradigm of asynchronous transactions. How do you wait for the message to reach there? How do you know that it's been implemented, finalized? Do we need to rethink how we build applications? Or perhaps we need to build some form of infrastructure to allow synchronous commitments across different chains. Now, lastly, we also went to further cement our thinking around abstracting away this complexity with our middleware panel. Here, we want to think about introducing or like bringing the user closer to the Web 2 experience, even when they are interacting with Web 3 dApps. We heard from Paul of Notify, who's bringing notifications to Web 3, a very kind of Web 2 concept. We heard from Harrison of Fleek, bringing like the easy storage and like payment for storage to Web 3 applications. We heard from Yannick of Elusive, where you can add one-click privacy and just shield transactions from there. And we also heard from David of Lit Protocol, where you can just sign or access Web 2 content using your Web 3 keys, be it like owning something or even conditions that happen on chain in Web 3. So with all these exciting things happening, we see that the frontier of the multi-chain infrastructure is so broad and there's so many things for us to invest in. And we love to continue to deepen our research and understanding and bring content like this to you. And beyond that, we also want to make it real. It is not just conceptual. We want to help these infrastructure projects actually bootstrap adoption and gain a lot of the first projects who are going to use their infrastructure. And that's where I love to hand over to Buri, who'll be talking about our accelerator approach with LongHash X.